This week's message is about the 6 steps to freedom. It's about our shift to our higher state of consciousness, about freedom from despair, hardship, suffering, challenge, and how do we move into a greater state of flow with our higher self. So these are the 6 steps from the angels on how to do it. So welcome back to my channel, you guys. Yes, it's an awesome message this week. I am so glad you're here for it. And for those of you who are new, welcome. My name is Ann Tucker. I am a trance channel. I channel from the angelic realm. I do that by raising my awareness up as high as I can go. First, I go into a deep meditative state or trance. And from that trance state, I raise my awareness up. And I reach as high as I can go, a little higher. I connect, and the messages, information, and healing comes through. And I share it here with you guys on YouTube. And this week's message it's a beautiful message on its own. It is also a continuation of last week's message, which was all about stopping the tornado of negative thoughts. So that is part of this message, but this message builds on that. So I will put the link to that message down below in the description, and I'll also make it one of the ones you can select at the end of the video for you guys. So if you scroll back down into the description box, you can find last week's message. So anyways, gorgeous message. And it is all about how, like I said, in the 6 steps, they talk through how we are. So a quick reminder, if you are part of my Peace Bathing group, which is our monthly Healing with the Angels, which helps us to keep pace with the energies of the shift, don't forget our session is this Sunday at 10 a.m. So I will definitely look forward to seeing you there. If you would like to join us, if you don't yet have a regular healing practice and you would like one, please come and join us. It's not too late. You can find out about it on my website. So we do a monthly meditation, and then you use that meditation all month long to help you keep pace with the great changes that we are going through right now. So we also, just so you know, that Soul Convergence, if you're interested in signing up for Soul Convergence, which is my deep healing program to help you integrate all of those traumatic aspects from birth to age 7, which we recreate throughout our lives to help heal those. That is coming up January 18th is the start, so signups are now, and it is starting to fill, so if you'd like to join us, don't wait on that one. All right, you guys, I hope you enjoy the message.
Beginning in 5, 4, 3, 2, 1.
Blessings, we are with you. We begin speaking on the trajectory of light and how it finds you. And today and tomorrow, we will bring you the reflection of our own hearts, and you will always know us by the reverberation of care and understanding, a loving template of how we hold one another and yourselves. And in the forthcoming anniversary of our togetherness, as we hold hands in surrender to all that is becoming, we renew ourselves together as one into the new surrendering times of forevermore. The next illuminative force, which will ground itself into your beingness, comes at the hands of surrender. It comes from within, the laying down of what is resistance. It comes from the rejection of all that has foretold your own reticence, your reluctance, and rejection of what can be your truth. Your own agonies of despair and sorrowful living come to be foretold within an environment of heaviness, of laying down within a surrendering to what is loss, to what is rejection of soul. In the new lines of memory, which are forming already, surrender takes on a new and soulful vibration. It is the sense of your own laying down of resistance, your own desire to control what is forming, of surrendering to the unfolding of your soul from within. Your soul has a mind of its own, a will to follow through on what is its own knowingness. Your soul has a will, as you have knowledge of. Your soul has desire, as you have forming within your own heart. Your soul has memory, as you call your own. However, your soul's desire is not born from lack, sorrow, reluctance, or suffering. It gathers to itself what it would replicate and make more of. It creates from within a vibration or tone of its own hopeful expression to become more of what it knows, to expand upon what it is, to exude from within itself what has been celebratory, and to illuminate the trajectories of its own heart. And this is how the soul surrenders to its own malleable perception of reality. Your own hopeful alignment with this, however, can be restrained by your reluctance to let go. To control what will form is the human predilection. It is the desire to make what is happening conform to your own expectations and fears of arrival, fear of your own heart, fear of your own soul. It is the fear of what is settled within you, the fear of making more of what has been hardship, what has been the knowledge that you have gathered. You have created fear in the form of the rejection of what has been your experiences. And from within that shape, surrender takes on the vibration of something you are reluctant to yield to. But as your soul makes itself known and surrender is lifted into a perspective within which you encounter no knowledge of the hardships from before, but only the elaboration of what is joyful from within you. Surrender to your joy. Surrender to what is your certitude in beingness. Surrender to what is fruitful within your own heart. Be surrendered to your own potential and possibility. This is all that is required. You need not surrender to a life of hardship. You need only bend to the acquiescence that it exists in the moment and relinquish your desire to change what is and to simply arrive within the form of your soul into wherever context you find yourself, and to allow the trajectory to take hold and to form itself around the gilded shape of your own divinity. When you form from control and controlling what is now, you are in a dialogue with hardship. You are in a formative discussion with the universe, which says, I will not surrender to the knowledge of what I am. I will instead reject where I have come from and attempt to conform my reality against what I am, to conform a world into a shape I wish not to experience once more. It is a reaction toward something that is convoluted in its shape-shifting membrane that evolves from your fears. Within the comprehending of surrender in a dialogue with your soul, you instead lay down those barriers and unleaven their readiness to recreate their own worries, and instead relinquish that hold on what is sorrow and open the gates to freedom. Freedom comes in the form of surrender. Freedom forms itself within your heart when it is renewed by the supple and unguarded relationship with the whole of you. In the pronouncement of your final forming into the new shape of humanity, you will find yourself unguarded once again. In truth, for there is nothing to guard against. There is no part of you, shape of you, which you must form against. Where solidity does not avail itself to your most fruitful endeavor, the world is readying itself to collide with the fullness of your own beautiful truth. You will become yourselves within the context of the new reality as soon as you set down hardship through the costly and burdensome desire to control that moves through the comprehensive egoism of the human collective consciousness. The sense that humanity must guard against itself is a limitation that has no knowledge of your true form. It has no understanding of why you've come here. It has no certainty in its own divinity. It is guarded against itself, its truth, the love that it is inspired from and within. The love of the divine permeates your soul. It is the guardian of your hardship. It is your solace. It is your launching point. We say in your endeavors to find the peace, to sacrifice your own context of controlling what is, we would advise you to lay down your thoughts of surrender as something to guard against, where surrender has been held as giving up, as letting go, and what is rewarded within the comprehension of humanity is trying harder, is building up, is making forms that withhold and hold back against surrender. We say to untidy those knowledge forms, to set them down, let them unveil themselves and disintegrate, and find instead that your own perpetual comprehension of soul comes from an easier place of warmth and ease from within. In the setting down to surrender, you need only stop the affliction of negative thoughts, allow the self to make peace with what is, and stay within the context you have known while all adjusts around you. Make peace with your soul, make peace with what is, make peace with how you are found, and see yourselves as the perfect expression for a new day. A new day starts from where you are currently, and it becomes itself through the guardianship of your own surrender to the soul that moves through you. Simply letting go is all that is required to restore the connection to this fluidity. Stay within the safe harbor of your own present moment and allow the self, your soul, to carry you. So, a beautiful, deeper explanation of what we had last week. And I love how the angels do this, how they start a conversation with us and then they build on it over time, right? They give us a little bit and then a little bit more and then a little bit more, like they're giving us time to integrate between every bit of it, right? Between every message. Yeah, it's super cool. So we should go ahead and break down the message. So, and you're saying, boy, I needed to hear this today. My archangel's guides are tapping on the head as if to get my attention to listen. Oh, that's awesome. Yeah, so cool. And lots of hellos. I love it. You guys are getting to know each other. It's so cool, you guys. So, okay, so let's break it down and talk through all the different things. The first thing is I want to say that the message contains, so last week they were talking about surrendering and about the need to let go of negative thinking. And that was really the sort of the main thrust of last week's message. This week they give us sort of the 6 steps to do it, which I love. And so the 6 steps are, and we can talk about that and then we'll go back and break down the whole message so we kind of get the deeper layers of it. So the 6 steps are how to do this, how are we supposed to let go and surrender, and really it's about coming back to the moment, kind of bringing things to a standstill. So we stopped last week they talked about the tornado of negative thoughts and how that stirs up the dust, creates illusion, and prevents us from seeing ourselves. And they said what we need to do is kind of just stop all the negative thinking so that all that dust will settle so that we can make space for our soul to come through. And so how do we do that? How do we actually do that? So here's the 6 steps they gave us in this week's message. They say, number 1, to redefine the term surrender, which was a super interesting idea, that we have a negative connotation to surrendering, that we think of surrendering as giving up, as being weak, right? And that we as humans, we much more honor all of the struggle that we are going to keep trying harder and, just keep trying, just keep swimming. It's like that idea of the indomitable spirit that we will never surrender. Like that is what we value as humans, right? We put all this energy into being unconquerable. So our concept of what surrender is negative. And they're saying that that's the first place to start, is to rethink the idea of surrender. We're not surrendering to our hardship. We are surrendering to our soul, which is really, really different. And yeah, we don't want to surrender to the forces of the world that are against us, except that we have to understand that what we see as against us is actually showing us ourself. So it's that idea of taking this concept of feeling that we are being good when we are in resistance, when we're struggling, when we're striving, and instead saying that we are good when we are in flow, and that we become aligned with our higher truth when we do that, and we have access to greater strength, greater power than we ever could by being limited in our human bodies, by resisting what we are. And that is a key thought, is that when we are resisting, we are in fact resisting ourselves always. That everything that is outside of us is a reflection of who we are inside. So when we resist it, we're resisting ourselves. So we have to really come to terms with this concept that we have made surrender a bad thing. That surrender, and I get it, it's like there's so many ways we think of as surrender as a bad thing, but we are redefining what surrender is. We are surrendering to our higher self, surrendering to our soul, surrendering to the divinity that we are, which we have been rejecting, right? So that's the new concept, the way our mind has to adjust in order to get to this new peace. Okay, so number 2, that's the first step, is rethink or redefine surrender for ourselves as surrendering to our higher self. Number 2, stop negative thoughts, which they went into at length on the last message, right? All about stopping the tornado of negative thinking. Number 3, make peace with what is. So this does not mean, and I love how they framed it, right? It doesn't mean that we have to embrace or love what is. It doesn't mean we have to be like, yay, I have these problems. Like, yay, I'm not feeling well, or yay, I'm broke today, or whatever it is. And we don't have to be like happy about it. It means we have to stop resisting it, right? Make peace with it. We have to accept what is. That's part of stopping the negative thinking. That's part of the surrender piece. It's about letting the dust settle. When we're resisting it, we are creating dust, we're creating resistance, we're creating chaos in our environment, which prevents us from channeling our higher self. Okay, so number 4 is let go of control. So one of the big ways we create dust or confusion in our environment is by trying to control our environment. And a huge point they make in the message is that when we're trying to control, what we're doing is we are resisting aspects of ourself. We're trying to say, boy, I had a bad experience in the past. I'm not going to experience that again. Well, that experience is part of us, is part of who we are. So if we can say, boy, one time I did something and someone really took advantage of me. So this time, say for example, you went and you bought a car and you felt like you got swindled. And you're like, this time I'm not going to let that happen. I'm going to be so careful and I'm going to dot every I and check every T, and I am going to, really be skeptical of everything this salesperson says. Well, think of all that resistance you are throwing into that experience. So that is, we have to let go control, go into it from the perspective, hold the belief that everything is going to flow beautifully for you. And that doesn't mean we don't read contracts or check our I's or T's. It means we do it from the perspective of flow, not from the perspective of expecting to be swindled. We expect it to go in grace. So it's letting go control, right? That's a big one. What are we resisting? Can we let go of the desire to control it? And that control comes from that perspective of I have to prevent something from happening. So control always comes from fear, right? So that's number 4, is to let go of control. Number 5, stay in the present moment, right? And then number 6, allow your soul to carry you. And so they have a whole section, that last one, number 6, allow your soul to carry you. This is the one that I think is explained the best in this message. Because how do you do that? How do you allow your soul to carry you? What is it like, this new form of surrender? That's what they're really breaking down. Because these other pieces they've talked about before, this number 6, that's the piece I feel like is the most helpful in this. It's all helpful, but number 6 is the one that I don't think we have a good understanding of. And this message helps us get it. So, okay. So that is the 6 steps of the message that they're giving us. How do we do this? How do we open up to be in flow with our soul? So, so beautiful. So let's go ahead and break it down paragraph by paragraph. Because we always get so much more. And there are some angel words of the day in here. So, okay, the first thing they say is blessings, we are with you. They always let me know like they're in. Hey, we're in. Okay, we begin speaking on the trajectory of light and how it finds you. In today and tomorrow, we will bring you the reflection of our own hearts. You always know us by the reverberation of care and understanding, a loving template of how we hold one another and yourselves. So reverberation, angel word of the day, is overlapping sounds caused by multiple reflections, and it has a continuing effect. So that to me says it is by the reverberations. In other words, it's angels surrounding us, multiple, like all kinds of angels just showering with love. That is what I get from that, reverberations of care and understanding, that there's so much care and understanding coming from the angels, from all these angels, that they're overlapping and creating a continuous effect where we're constantly held in the love of the angels. So I love that. Yeah, of course. So, and then it is a loving template of how we hold one another and yourself. So this is sort of like, this is always how it's done. This is the template for the relationship that we have with the angels, that they surround us in love and a reverberation of love, right? And then they go on to say, next line is interesting. And in the forthcoming anniversary of our togetherness, as we hold hands in surrender to all that is becoming, we renew ourselves together as one into the new surrendering times of forevermore. So this I found fascinating. And the forthcoming anniversary of our togetherness. So we've talked with the angels at large. Like they've talked a lot about how they are integrated with us, about how we each have a guardian angel that is literally incarnated with us. And we can't see them because they are physically incarnated, but they're incarnated in a light body. And unless you've had a near-death experience or that is part of your unique gifting, most of us cannot see light bodies. We can only see physical bodies. But that doesn't mean they don't exist. And they are here with us. We have a light body too, but we also have a physical body. Angels are incarnated in light bodies. So not very few angels are actually incarnated. We've talked about this too, that most angels have never been incarnated. But those that do, those that come through as a guardian angel, incarnated into a light body. And so those people you hear about on earth who see angels, they are seeing incarnated angels, not non-incarnated angels. They're seeing the ones who are in light bodies. So you have every one of us has a guardian angel that comes in with us, that is literally like integrated with us and our experience. And they're here to guard our divine spark, right? They're part of our experience, and they are literally tied to us. So it is a massive statement of faith that they say, okay, you get to do what you're going to do in your life, and I am along for the ride. Like, think about that, right? They are, no matter what crazy decisions we make, they have to be here for it with us. All the good and the bad and the ugly, right? They're there for all of it. They're intertwined with us. So it's a major statement of love. So they have been bonded to us through this entire journey as humanity. So now they are saying that, and now we are coming to the forthcoming anniversary of our togetherness. So to me, this says that humanity is going into, as we go into the new reality, as we go into new earth with this great shift in consciousness, it is a rebirth of humanity, and we will become the new version of humanity. So it's like a birthday, right? Like if we think of this whole last period we've been in as like, our first year in life as humanity, as our human consciousness is evolving, and we've been with the angels. Well, upcoming is the anniversary. It's a new birth, like a birthday, but we're being birthed into the new year, into the new state of being. So, but they will still be bonded to us. We will still have guardian angels. It will still be an anniversary of our togetherness. They're on the journey with us, right? And we hold hands in surrender to all that is becoming. So that is the journey to the higher state of consciousness. It is a journey of surrender, right? And so to all that is becoming, we renew ourselves together as one. So them and us and all angels, all humans, all as one, right? Together as one into the new surrendering times of forevermore. So beautiful, forevermore. So like we are all infinite beings. Gorgeous, gorgeous first paragraph. So you're saying happy anniversary, right? Exactly. Yeah. And so the next paragraph, they say the next illuminative force, which will ground itself into your beingness. So in other words, what is this next state of consciousness we will be joining or becoming, comes at the hands of surrender. It comes from within. The laying down of what is resistance. It comes from the rejection of all that has foretold your own reticence. And so, by the way, a couple times in here, the pronouns got a little jargly. So I will try to explain that as we go, where there's a couple extra little its and thens and froms in here, which makes it a little harder to follow. And I will try to clarify that as I go. But the laying down of what is resistance, it comes from the rejection of all that has foretold your own residence. So we're sort of this is about surrendering, setting down the way we have been, which has been resistance to who we are, resistance to our truth. And that means, and when I say that, to make that very specific, that is resisting every experience, thought, feeling we have ever had that we didn't like, that we wish we didn't have, that we try not to remember, we try not to feel. That is us resisting ourselves. And then we create more of that in our outer world, and we resist it in our outer world. And that is resisting our truth. So that is what and this is about letting go of that resistance, letting it all be true, healing it. And that sets the stage for us to step to a higher state of consciousness. So the laying down of what is resistance, it comes from the rejection of all that has foretold your own reticence, your reluctance, right? Your reluctance and rejection of what can be your truth. Your own agonies and despair and sorrowful living come to be foretold within an environment of heaviness, of laying down within a surrendering to what is loss, to what is rejection of soul. So it is this resistance that is creating our misery, basically, because we are in whatever we resist persists. Everything we resist about ourselves, we create in our reality, and then we experience it again, and then we have layers and layers and layers of wounding, which is basically what they're saying here. Yeah. All right. And then they go on to say, in the new lines of memory, which are forming already, surrender takes on a new and soulful vibration. So this is about the redefinition of what is surrender. How do we think of the term surrender? Not surrendering to the constant recreation of our own misery. Instead, we are surrendering to our truth, which gets rid of our misery. That's the puzzle. We surrender. By surrendering to it, we no longer create it. And we all of a sudden get to live in our divinity. So surrender takes on a new and soulful vibration. It is the sense of your own laying down of resistance, laying down and then they say your own desire for control of what is forming. So here they mean laying down your desire to control what is forming, of surrendering to the unfolding of your soul from within. Then they go on to say, your soul has a mind of its own, a will to follow through on what is its own knowingness. Your soul has a will, as you have knowledge of. Your soul has desire, as you have forming within your own heart. Your soul has memory, as you call your own. However, your soul's desire is not born from lack, sorrow, reluctance, or suffering. So what this says is that we as humans, a lot of times our desire is born from lack, sorrow, reluctance, and suffering, right? We look at our lives and we say, boy, I'm really struggling with, maybe you live in an apartment and you've got really noisy neighbors upstairs and you're like, my desire is to live on the top floor. Well, is that coming from the place of like excited about having more light, excited about maybe having taller ceilings, or is it about, God, I really want to get away from this noise, right? If it's the got to get away from this noise, it's resistance, rejection to what is, which is how we form most of our desire. So they're saying our higher selves, our souls, are not like that. Their desire is not born from lack, sorrow, reluctance, or suffering. It comes from something else. And here is what it comes from, which is this is the part I was telling you. This is step 6 right here. This is how we will do it. Once we let our soul flow through it, this is how we create our reality. This is the paragraph. They say, how does your soul do it? It gathers to itself what it would replicate and make more of. It creates from within a vibration or tone of its own hopeful expression to become more of what it knows, to expand upon what it is, to exude from within itself what has been celebratory, and to illuminate the trajectories of its own heart. This is how the soul surrenders to its own malleable perception of reality. So think about how different that is from how we do it now. Right now, we are always creating from what we don't want, right? We're constantly trying to get away from things. We're like, oh, okay, we want a solution against suffering. That is a totally different perspective from what our soul does, which our soul says it gathers to itself what it would replicate and make more of. So our soul says, what has been awesome, I'm going to make more of that, right? It says, so think about that. If you thought about this upcoming year and making your resolutions for the new year and said, what did I do awesomely this year? Like, where did I crush it this year? I'm going to do more of that is what I'm going to focus on. I'm going to do more awesomeness this year, as opposed to, whoa, that sucked this year. I gained 5 pounds this year, or whatever you did, whatever it was that you're like, oh, I'm going to do that differently. So that's the negative perspective. Instead, they say, how did you crush it? Maybe you took better care of yourself in some way this year, or maybe you were kinder to your siblings this year, or whatever. And you say, okay, great. That was a good feeling. I'm going to create more of that. That's how our soul works. It gathers to itself what it would replicate and make more of. It creates from within a vibration or tone of its own hopeful expression. Like, what would be awesome? Right? That's the expression, to become more of what it knows. So in other words, that feeling of certainty, like, oh, wow, this is beautiful about me. I'm going to make more of that, right? To expand upon what is, to exude from itself, within itself. So another think about that how much of our desire to create is trying to create something that isn't. We're trying to say, I don't like what is. I'm going to create something that isn't. Our soul doesn't do that. Our soul tries to create more of what is beautiful. To exude from within itself what has been celebratory, right? When to illuminate the trajectories of its own heart. So this is specifying it is heart-directed, not head-directed. So much of what we create is from our thoughts. They're saying start creating from feelings, from joy. Yeah, this is how the soul surrenders to its own malleable perception of reality. So absolutely beautiful, and could not be more different from how we unconsciously create our world all the time, right? Just beautiful. Okay, they go on to say, your own hopeful alignment with this, however, can be restrained by your reluctance to let go. So in other words, how do we do this? It's going to be hard unless we can let go, and we are reluctant to let go. We want to control what will form. They say to control what will form is the human predilection. Predilection means a strong preference. That's another angel word of the day. Our strong preference as humans is to control what will form. It is the desire to make what is happening conform to your own expectations and fears of, arrival, fear of your own heart. So in other words, we're trying to prevent stuff from happening again. That is what we do. We're trying to control things so that bad stuff won't happen again, right? Our fear of what will arrive. Fear of your own heart, fear of your own soul. It is the fear of what is settled within you. So, and this is really a strong description of that what we are creating in a reality is what is inside of us, and that is what we are resisting. We're trying not to create the thing that made us miserable, and in doing that, we are actually creating it again, right? And we're controlling. We're trying to ratchet down tighter and tighter and tighter, trying to prevent it from happening, and the more we resist it, the more it persists. They go on to say the fear of making more of what has been hardship, what has been the knowledge that you've gathered, right? So everything we fear, all our street smarts, all of that. They go on to say, you have created fear in the form of the rejection of what has been your experiences. And from within that shape, surrender takes on the vibration of something you are reluctant to yield to, which makes perfect sense, right? If we think that our reality is outside of us and not inside of us, and we're trying to resist it, then the concept of surrender sounds awful. It sounds like the only thing we can do, if we really believe that we are the be all end all, and it's up to us by ourselves to try to form our reality based on trying to resist what we used to experience, then control is our go-to. And we're going to be gripping that steering wheel harder than ever. And the idea of surrender sounds like a really bad idea, because we will believe in our fear, we'll believe that all those bad things will happen to us if we surrender. And what they go on to say that, but as your soul makes itself known and surrender is lifted into a perspective within which you encounter no knowledge of the hardships from before. In other words, we redefine surrender as something that is not about hardship. They say, but only the elaboration of what is joyful from within you. Surrender to your joy. They're saying that's what surrender is supposed to be, is surrendering to our joy. Surrender to what is your certitude in beingness. And so certitude in beingness, think about that. So that is that idea that no matter what is existing, you are being. This is a nod to the fact that no matter what, your reality is coming from within you. And if we just embrace our joy, then we are certain to create joy, because joy is what's inside of us. We don't have to fear what arrives if we are embracing our joy, because the joy, if we're embracing resistance, we're going to create resistance in our reality. If we have certitude in our beingness, then we can surrender to that and surrender to our joy and create joy. It's such a mind warp because it is so against our own innate nature. It's just like jump off the cliff and you'll be fine. Jump off the cliff and you won't, but our mind says, don't jump. And that's where we are as humans. That's where we're stuck on. Stop resisting. Well, if I resist, I'll get hurt. And they're like, no, you have to resist in order to be in flow. It is counterintuitive in a huge way. But that's why they have to keep telling it to us and trying to help us understand it so that we can take the leap of faith, right? The faith in ourselves, faith in and if you really think about it, it does make sense, and that helps. So surrender to what is your own certitude and beingness. Surrender to what is fruitful within your own heart. That's that idea. Elaborate more of what was good. Focus on what was joyful. Be surrendered to your own potential and possibility. This is all that is required. They go on, next paragraph. You need not surrender to a life of hardship. So there they say it super plain. This is not about surrendering to hardship. You need only bend to the acquiescence that it exists in the moment and relinquish your desire to change what is. So this is how we get there. How do we get to the space of flow? We have to stop resisting. So they say that it doesn't mean we have to love it. We don't have to surrender to hardship as if like, yeah, I'm always going to be in hardship. That's not what they're asking. We need only bend to the acquiescence. And acquiescence, another angel word of the day, means accept something reluctantly, but without protest. So in other words, we don't have to like it. It's a perfect word. We don't have to like it. We don't have to be like, I love my hardship. You're not required to do that. You don't have to fake feeling. You don't have to be like, yay, I love my people who are stomping upstairs in my apartment. You don't. All you have to be is like, okay with what is. You have to say, okay, that is where I am today and I accept. And I have a roof over my head and I'm safe and I'm warm. And yes, there's some stomping upstairs. So accepting something reluctantly, but without protest. That's all we have to do. It's not that hard of it. It's a huge leap to say you have to love it. You don't have to love it. You need only bend to the acquiescence that it exists, and hopefully I'm pronouncing that correctly, acquiescence, that it exists in the moment, and relinquish your desire to change what is. And to simply arrive within the form of your soul into whatever context you will find yourself, and to allow the trajectory to take hold and to form itself around the gilded shape of your own divinity. So this is huge. So this is basically saying that once we do that, once we stop resisting and we accept what is, then what will happen is like letting the dust settle. As soon as that dust settles, you will simply arrive in the form of your soul, into the context of where you are right in this moment. Your soul will come as soon as the dust settles and you stop trying to control. And think of control as like tightening down, like almost like you have a tube that goes up to your soul, and when you try to control, you are ratcheting down and controlling that flow of energy that comes through you until it's so tight that your soul can't fit through. The minute you stop trying to control, you let go and you open up that pipe, and all of a sudden, whoosh, your soul can flow through. So that's literally all we have to do. You don't have to do any magic. You literally just have to stop doing what's hard, which is trying to control. So we do this, and then you relax, you let the dust settle, which might take a little while as you get comfortable with accepting what is. And then your soul will form through you into whatever context you find yourself. So no matter where you are, what's happening around you, your soul will meet you there, right? And allow the trajectory to take hold and form itself around the gilded shape of your own divinity. So what will happen when you do that is all of a sudden, your reality will start forming differently around your divinity as opposed to around your fear, which is incredible, right? Absolutely incredible. All right, so okay, next paragraph. They go on to say, when you form from control and controlling what is now, you are in a dialogue with hardship. You are in a formative discussion with the universe, which says, I will not surrender to the knowledge of what I am. So this is that idea that there's things that maybe we said, did, experienced, things that maybe were really hard in our lives that we wish we hadn't experienced, and we try very, very hard to repress, that we try very hard not to think about and not to accept, and we try very hard not to be those things or to let them influence us, as opposed to accepting that that's part of us and just letting it merge with us and coming to peace with it. And we find once we come to peace with it, we're no longer resisting it. It's much less painful. And we gradually process those feelings and feel better, which is the work we do in Soul Convergence. So if you want help with that, come join us. We start January 18th. So you are in dialogue. So in other words, is you are in a dialogue with hardship. You are in a formative discussion with the universe, which says, I will not surrender to the knowledge of what I am. I will instead reject where I have come from and attempt to conform my reality against what I am. So this is what we're doing now. To conform a world into a shape I wish not to experience once more. Think about that, how backwards that is. I'm conforming the world into a shape I wish not to experience, which is exactly what we are doing. I wish not to experience that, so I'm going to dwell on it, I'm going to resist it, and therefore I am going to experience it. It is a reaction towards something that is convoluted in its shape-shifting membrane that evolves from your fears. That shape-shifting membrane is like, this is reality, and we are the creators, and we are creating it, and it evolves from our fears. That's how we live today. Within the comprehending of surrender, in a dialogue with your soul, you instead lay down those barriers. This is how we'll do it as we accept, as we release our resistance, we let our soul flow through us. We will lay down those barriers and unleaven their readiness to recreate their own worries. To leaven something is to like let it rise. This is like let it go flat, right? Let it lose its sort of life. So lay down the barriers and unleaven them, their readiness to recreate their own worries. And instead, we relinquish the hold on what is sorrow and open the gates to freedom. Freedom comes in the form of surrender. So I love this phrase, open the gates to freedom, because it really tells us that we don't have to pull the freedom in. We don't have to go find it and dig it out and mine for it. All we have to do is open the gate. So it's right there. It's that idea of the constriction. It's by letting go of control, we open the gate and freedom flows in. And I know it's hard to open the gate. It's really hard to set down control, but that's all we got to do. Freedom comes, and that's why they say freedom comes in the form of surrender. We have to surrender the gate, surrender the barricade, surrender resistance. Next paragraph. I highlighted this one. I love it because it's so beautiful. Freedom forms itself within your heart when it is renewed by the supple, unguarded relationship with the whole of you. So in other words, with your higher self. So freedom forms in your heart when it is renewed by the supple, unguarded, in other words, that free, flowing, unguarded relationship with the whole of you, with your soul. In the pronouncement of your final forming into the new shape of humanity, you will find yourself unguarded again. In truth, for there is nothing to guard against. There is no part of you, shape of you, which you must form against, where solidity does not avail itself to your most fruitful endeavor. So what they're saying is that it is not, we don't have to worry about protecting ourselves from what we are. That reality naturally wants to make more of what is good in us. And the only thing that's preventing that from happening is our negative thinking. So everything is conspiring to try to help us to have a beautiful life, right? And that is not to say that we should feel bad for what we've created. We have been in a very unique circumstance where we have been cut off from our higher selves. We've been separated from our higher selves in a way that, and the angels told us this in the last message, we were always meant to live in a state of separation in the sense that we are supposed to understand what we are not and learn about ourselves, but we are not supposed to be separated from our higher truth, from our soul. And that was not as it was intended. That was not by divinity. So we are living in a state, they're trying to bring us back into right relationship with our higher self. So don't feel bad about what you've created. If you created a life and you're like, oh, it sounds so great, like don't feel bad or guilty about that. Understand we've been working with like half a deck. We've been working with really difficult circumstances and we have done the best that we could and we've made the most of it. We took this time, what could have been kind of a bum out, and we instead used it as an opportunity to learn a whole ton about ourselves in separation. So we turned it into a good thing. Right? We learned about who we are in separation from everyone. It was a much harder lesson than it was meant to be, but it was a lesson and we learned a lot. But they're saying that as we move into the new state of consciousness, that there is nothing that we have to guard ourselves against, that the reality is wanting to create what is best about us. All right. Then they say, the world is readying itself to collide with the fullness of your own beautiful truth. Right? There it is again, that the world is readying itself, that is ready to create more of what is beautiful about you. You will become yourselves within the context of the new reality as soon as you set down hardship. Through the costly and burdensome desire to control, that, so in this part again, the prepositions or whatever got a little confusing, but they're saying that hardship comes through the costly and burdensome desire to control that moves through the comprehensive egoism of the human collective consciousness. That was a mouthful. So the desire to control moves through the comprehensive egoism. So egoism is self-interest, and that's what it means. Is self-interest, it's all about self. And so the desire to control that moves through the comprehensive egoism of the human collective consciousness. So the collective, human collective, is comprehensively focused on self-interest, right? And that comes from fear, right? That comes from the fear that we're going to create more suffering. So, and that creates a desire for control. So this is part of how we have to set down hardship. Next paragraph. The sense that humanity must guard against itself is a limitation that has no knowledge of your true form, right? So this whole concept that there's stuff we have to prevent about ourselves. This is, it gives us, that comes from having no direct connection without any real knowledge of what we really are. It has no understanding of why you've come here. It has no certainty in its own divinity. It is guarded against itself, its truth, the love that it is inspired from and within. So this is, they're saying that we come from love, we were created within love, that we are love, and that's all that we are. The love of the divine permeates your soul. It is the guardian of your hardship. It is your solace. It is your launching point. So they're saying this is what we need. The launching point is we just have to let that come through, right? Set down the resistance. All right, so next paragraph. We say, in your endeavors to find the peace, to sacrifice your own context of controlling what is, we would advise you, and here's where they get into the 6 steps. We would advise you to, number 1, lay down your thoughts of surrender as something to guard against, where surrender has been held as giving up. So this is redefining surrender, right, as letting go. And then said redefining that idea that it's giving up or letting go. And what is rewarded within the comprehension of humanity is trying harder, is building up, is making forms that withhold and hold back against surrender. So that's the first thing we have to do is realize that and decide to change our definition of surrender into something positive. Positive because of what we are surrendering to. We're surrendering to our higher self. Next paragraph, they say, we say to untidy those knowledge forms. So in other words, like untidy them is that right now they're all neat and tidy and built up over generations and generations and tied with a bow. They're saying untie that bow, make it messy, let it all hang out. And they say to set them down, to let them unveil themselves and disintegrate. So we got to let it all hang out and disintegrate. That might mean an ugly cry or two. So let it disintegrate and find instead that your own perpetual comprehension of soul comes from an easier place of warmth and ease from within. So it's not about control, it's about flow, warmth, ease. Next paragraph, they say, in the setting down to surrender, which is step 1, you need only stop the affliction of negative thoughts, which is number 2, stop the negative thoughts, right? Which is, they went into that very deeply last week. Allow the self to make peace with what is, that is number 3, make peace with what is, and stay within the context you have known while all adjusts around you. Make peace with your soul, make peace with what is, make peace with how you are found, and see yourselves as the perfect expression of a new day. And so that is that letting go of control. And then they go on in the next paragraph here. They say, a new day starts from where you are currently, and it becomes itself through the guardianship of your own surrender to the soul that moves through you. Simply letting go. That's number 4 was letting go, is all that is required to restore the connection to this fluidity. Stay within the safe harbor of your own present moment. That's number 5. Stay in the present moment. And then they say, and allow the self, your soul, to carry you. And that is number 6. Allow your soul to carry you. And that takes us back to the paragraph at the beginning where they describe what is it like when our soul carries us. When our soul carries us, it gathers to itself what it would replicate and make more of. It creates from within a vibration or tone of its own hopeful expression, to become more of what it knows, to expand upon what it is, to exude from within itself what has been celebratory, and to illuminate the trajectories of its own heart. This is how the soul surrenders to its own malleable perception of reality. So that is it. The 6 steps. Number 1, redefine surrender. Number 2, stop negative thoughts. Number 3, make peace with what is. Number 4, let go of control. Number 5, stay in the present moment. And number 6, allow your soul to carry you. How cool is that, you guys? Yeah, beautiful message. And I feel there's clarity here that I feel like is really hard to get sometimes. We hear a lot of platitudes in spirituality. We hear a lot of self-love. And it's okay, well, great. Yeah, self-love, what is that? It can be hard to define, and I feel like they are giving us very specific steps that expand a lot on. The platitudes are true, but if we don't understand them, we backfill that uncertainty with a bunch of whatever. And this, I feel like, makes it really tangible and physical, and like we know what to do, which I love it, absolutely love it. Yeah. So let's look what you guys are saying. Kim says, there are no words, angels or otherwise, to express how much I needed and appreciate this message today. Beautiful. Thank you so much, Kim. Yeah. And then Anne says, practical steps. Yep, we love it. Yeah. It's to me, it is one of the beautiful things about the angels is that they are willing, and they do it over time. They do one step at the kind of over, one message, another message, and they build these messages to give us a deeper and deeper understanding with then at the end, a sense of what we're supposed to do, which to me is, it's so important. Sharon says, I love this message. Very helpful breakdown. My anxiety went way down. Yay, love that. Marie says, beautiful, simple message, but a lifetime of work. That is the truth, Marie. That is the truth. And that is why we have soul convergence. It really is because it's, and that is one of the beautiful things from my perspective, how much I grow in my understanding of I just allow, with the angels, I allow it to flow through, and I don't always see the big picture until afterwards. And when the soul convergence came through, I knew it was important, and I knew the importance of aligning all parts of ourself and all that kind of stuff. But more and more, I understand how that is a huge part about creating the new reality, is this self-acceptance. That is self-love. Self-love is integrating all aspects of ourself. And it is hard to do on our own because it's really hard to see ourselves. It's we can see ourselves in moments, but you can accelerate. You can do a lifetime of healing, in soul convergence, just in that period. It can do what a lot of people never accomplish in a lifetime. And that is why I love it. That's why I'm so grateful for it. Yeah, Sue says joy was finding this group. Awesome. Sandra says love to all. Thank you and the angels. Beautiful. Thank you. Carrie says a reaffirmation of the message I received earlier this morning. Fantastic. Love it. And Terry says simplicity. Yep, absolutely. And then John says surrender is a difficult word for 3D humans who are separate from source to understand. Great that the angels decided to workshop the definition. Yes. Isn't that? I mean, I think that's a big part of it. You're right. Surrender doesn't usually have a positive meaning for us. And I think it is really important that we sit with that and think about how important that is if a big part of this shift in consciousness is about surrendering to our higher self. That is, and if our whole thing is controlling, do we really think that we know better than our higher self, than our soul? Right? Yeah. Beautiful messages, Don, and a wonderful explanation with easy tools to help us succeed in surrender, accepting, and allowing. Yes! And Carrie says, I was going to skip the live and watch the replay only. I believe I was meant to see this live today. Thank you so much for joining us, Carrie. All right, you guys, beautiful to have this time with you. Thank you so much. I really appreciate you bringing your energy and holding these messages, helping us all to digest and to bring this into the collective consciousness. I feel like this is powerful work that we do together. So thank you. I'm sending you tons of love. And I will see many of you at Peace Bathing on Sunday. And everybody else, I will see you next Friday live. Have a great weekend, you guys. Bye-bye.